All right, y'all. We're live for another episode. So today we're gonna be talking about fake Flossy CEOs and why you may be one.
Oh boy.
Mm-mm.
Don't worry,
Here we go.
don't worry. You don't have to clutch your pearls too tight because we're gonna put CEOs today in 3 different buckets. So that way you know exactly where you stand. So Kai and Tommy, which one of y'all want to kind of break it down and kind of set the frame for the difference between a fake CEO, a fake Flossy CEO, a real CEO, and a CEO in training?
Kai, I think this is you right here because we, off air, I feel like you kind of summed it up real nice, and I just kind of added a little to it. So I'm gonna give it to you.
Man, okay. So here, where to start? Oh my God. So here's the thing, right? Like, I think all 3 of us have, in our extensive careers, run into founders and CEOs and solopreneurs and people, people building cool stuff, trying to scale it, right? And like, to me, over the years, I have seen very interesting patterns kind of start to arise and evolve, and commonalities around like founders or just people at the helm of these companies who really just like have it together, like, and people who just don't. And honestly, like, I feel like everybody, every single entrepreneur, like we make mistakes, we learn, we grow, like we do things, that 5 years down the road we look back and be like, oh, why'd I do that? Right? Like that just totally happens. But there's like a certain like breed of entrepreneur, I feel, that's like so just so incredibly fake with it. Like they create these labels. It's like this, they have this label of the CEO, right? And they aren't, like, at all. It's like they don't even really fully understand what that means to be a CEO. There are lots of people out in the world who do not have CEO titles, right? Like lots of entrepreneurs out there, they don't use the title CEO, but they move like CEOs, and they can scale and build and grow and manage teams and have a cohesive company like a CEO does. And they don't even call themselves CEOs because they kind of know what the difference is. But there's a lot of people out there who, they flash the business card, they put it up on their LinkedIn, XYZ, as, I'm such and such, I'm CEO of this company. And then you actually have conversations with them, and you go, you work with them, and you link up with their teams, and you go into their back end systems, and you go into their business and dive deep, and you realize, like, what is this? It's like the whole thing is put together with duct tape and paper clips. And meanwhile, they're over there like, basically flossing for the gram. And they've got the lifestyle brand, and they've got the personal brand is popping, and they've got the sleek photo shoots and the video shoots of themselves and this, that, the other. And meanwhile, over here, their product is jacked up. Like their customer service is a mess. Their teams are completely discombobulated. Like it's a whole drama. Anyway, I just like totally like rambled for 5 minutes, but legit, like that's it's a problem. It's like it's a whole epidemic.
Yeah, it's bad. That's where the whole fake, thing come from. Because to me,
they're not real CEOs, bro.
Yeah, because it's like, it's the intent, right? I talked about this, when we was off air. It's like, that you lack in these areas, yet you don't do anything and still want to call yourself a CEO, a leader.
Right. Like they're focused on the wrong stuff.
Yeah. And right? Because it's like, if you don't know, you don't know. Like me, I stopped using the title CEO because once I started understanding what that meant, I use founder. I might still have it on one of my companies on my LinkedIn profile, but I feel more like, a real true CEO, is a leader. It's, they great at management. They, they know how to, get, galvanize and culture, because, a founder can be great visionary, they know how to like create outcomes and build great products and stuff like that. But that doesn't necessarily, a CEO is somebody who can actually run an efficient organization to me.
Absolutely.
And the people who claim to be that, knowing full well that they lack in these areas and they're not trying to do anything about them, but still claim to be such, that's what make you fake to me.
No,
and
I agree.
The Flossy thing to me is, it's interesting how most of the ones out there beating their chest the most are typically, that's where the whole fake Flossy come from, because it seems like the loudest ones are the ones that be the worst ones. That's just kind of my take.
Yo,
some of the biggest killers that I ever seen, the silent killers, be the ones that just be murdering the game, but they ain't out there beating their
killers. Honestly, I'm going through, like, as you're speaking, I'm going through my mental Rolodex of like fake CEO, and every single one of them, they're like super loud on social media, super loud here, super loud there. They're showing their faces everywhere, which is cool. Like, hey, like there's nothing wrong with that.
Yep.
But it's like, the way that they move on social, you would think that they have $150 million company.
Yep.
That's like together, and then you actually, like, they reach out, oh, can you help me with my business, and then you look in the back and it's like, what is this? Like, it's
me and you had a mutual client, and I straight up told this person that they needed to hire them a CEO. Like, you probably know what I'm talking about. This go back a couple of years.
I know it. Listen, CEO can't, like, it's not for everybody.
It ain't for everybody.
Everybody is not able.
And you shouldn't feel bad if you listening to the podcast. You shouldn't feel bad if you thinking, I don't know, I may not be a CEO. Like, you may just be a phenomenal founder. You may be a phenomenal product developer. You may be great at product development. That doesn't mean that you have to be the person that's at the helm or setting the vision for the company. That doesn't mean that at all.
Well, remember, we also, that the three categories, right, is like a real CEO, a fake CEO, and then like the CEO in training, right? Where you got the person who, they lack management skills and they don't know any better, but when they do know better, they try to fix it.
Exactly.
They lack leadership, and when they don't know it, they don't know it, but when they know it, they try to do something about it.
Yeah, there's an
nothing
evolution
wrong with not knowing, you know what I mean? But when you know, do something about it. And if you know but don't do anything and you still want to claim the thing, that's what make you fake to me.
Fake.
So you still got people who we all out here learning, you know what I'm saying? Nobody's perfect. I know I'm falling forward a lot of times myself, but what I don't do and what I can't respect when other people operate that way is when I know that I'm lacking in something, I'm going to do something about it. I'm not going to keep doing something when I know better.
Right. There has to be a constant state of evolution,
absolute
growth that takes place. And I don't see that most of the time on the fake CEO side of things. Like, they're not, and it's almost like they know, but they don't care enough to do what's necessary. They're way more interested in what's happening over here with their followers, or the next photo shoot of them coming out of a jet or some shit. Like, they're more interested in that than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about that word, accountability, That's kind of like the big overarching theme of this whole conversation is that word, accountability.
Absolutely.
So, Tyron, I think maybe you can kick off I think we want to clear up like founder and CEO, because we done tossed kind of both of them in there, right? So I think, and I know we was talking number and we was trying to get a number, and you had some pushback on that, right? So how would you kind of jump off the founder, CEO, the difference between the two? Because I want us to, make sure that we address that as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that a founder and a CEO is totally different. So you could be a team of one or a team of three, but you're not a CEO, you're a founder, right?
Right.
Or you could have never made any revenue at all, and you could be a CEO of a company. Obviously, you guys have raised capital, but you just haven't generated any revenue or anything like that. And now you can be a CEO. So I think we have to be clear on, and I know Kai, I know you wanted to add more to that as well. We started getting into governance and stakeholders as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely delineation, like just even from a technical perspective, right? Like real CEOs, they have a board of directors.
Uh-oh.
Like you can't just be out here in these streets, digital or otherwise, saying that you're a CEO and yet you don't have a board, like, or a C-suite. Like
And
if you're just a
C-suite does
CEO
what
and
to
then
the CEO? Keep the CEO accountable?
so, I mean, to me, like the C-suite serves as the it's almost like the CEO's inner circle, right? They're the people that are having direct conversations with the CEO. They're leading various lines of business. They're leading various channels, as it were, various verticals. So you've got like a CMO, you've got a COO, right? Operations, you have your CFO, et cetera, et cetera. And they're really like the dream. Well, ideally, they're the dream team. That's essentially going to be the people that take the marching orders from CEO and move towards that particular CEO's vision, right, within their own kind of realm. So if that's marketing or operations or finance, all that jazz, or tech, what have you. So that's really, in my mind, that's what the role of the C-suite is. But like, you can't be a CEO and you've got a VA.
Uh-oh.
You know what I mean? Virtual assistant, for those of you who are not, who don't know the acronyms. But like that's my thing. That's my thing. So like
That's fired. That's
there's just a different level of governance. It's a completely different level of governance that exists with a CEO versus a founder. I think that, they in some ways the roles are similar, but in so many ways those roles are different.
Absolutely.
And I think it really comes down to like the org chart. Like in my mind, a CEO is at the top of a multi-layered org chart. It's not the CEO and then 2 people and a VA, or or 4 people or 5. Like it's really, you've got a C-suite, you've got under that, you've got directors or executive directors, what have you. You've got layers, you've got analysts, you've got bottom rung folks, you've just got entry level positions, you've got coordinators, you've got managers, you've got it's a different kind of game. And as such, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go finish.
No, I was just gonna say, like, as such, I feel like the role of that person who's at the top becomes very, very visionary oriented in ways that a founder does need to adopt, right? Because they need to have vision as well. But I think that the way in which that gets executed and deployed becomes very different from a CEO's lens.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think founders tend to be more visionary, actually, but they lack how to execute said vision. I think CEOs are really good at being visionaries who know how to execute to bring that vision to reality, versus somebody who just, they have a vision, they have a big idea, they know how to make great things and products and so forth and so on, but they lack the organizational skills, the management skills to really bring it to life. So I think they both are visionary. I just think, founders tend to be more big idea vision, and CEOs tend to be more executable vision. That's kind of at least my take on it. I mean, I ain't gonna say I'm right, but
yeah, no, I feel you.
I delineate.
I feel you. I feel like, to me, those are the 2 things that founders and CEOs have in common. Like they are visionaries, and they're responsible for deploying, or at least in the very least, they're responsible for like managing the team that is then responsible for the execution.
Yep.
I just think that the one, a CEO has way more resources at their disposal. And so, they can be a lot more hands off, I think, in terms of the how a thing gets done.
Yep.
Versus a founder, like they're very much in the weeds of the how the thing gets done for the most part, and they should be, quite frankly. Like, to me, if you're doing 5, 10, 15, hell, 20 million, and you're not fully cognizant of like the goings on and the ins and outs of your organization. I'm not saying you have to be an expert in every single thing, because that's just not possible, right? That's why you hire people. But for you to be clueless, that doesn't work, whether you're a founder or whether you're a CEO.
I've seen a lot of founders, companies take off who either put a CEO in place, or B, didn't put a CEO in place. And typically the ones that don't put a CEO in place
struggle.
Because a lot of times a lot of really great founders are not necessarily CEO material, and ain't nothing wrong with that, right? I mean, I got a perfect example, like Organifi. Drew Canole was kind of the founder and CEO of that. And once they got to a certain level, he removed himself from CEO and he put Jamel in position. And then Jamel moved himself out. And I think May is now the CEO there. So, they understand, just because I'm the founder don't mean I got to be the CEO.
Right.
More than likely you the founder, you own the majority of the company anyway. So it don't matter if you don't got to necessarily be there driving the ship every day.
Exactly.
So it ain't nothing wrong with that when you know that and you understand your strengths and your weaknesses. So, I just a lot of founders tend to not necessarily be great, but the ones that understand that tend to do very well, and the ones that don't tend to crash and burn, at least in my experience.
No, I wholeheartedly agree.
Steve Jobs, perfect example.
Exactly. Yep, perfect example.
It happens all the time. And I think we talked about this in an earlier podcast, but VCs, like a lot of them will, after a time, right, they're going to be like, all right, well, you took the company from here to here.
Yep.
And that's awesome. But we
don't believe in your ability to steer the ship anymore. So we're going to take you out and put somebody else in there to protect our investment.
Right. And you can either really step to the plate and step into that position as a CEO and like really put that work in, because it is a lot of work. Or you can step aside and allow for the company to hire, an MBA or hire some other person. They don't have to be an MBA, but like hire someone else who can really come in, because I think the most critical element of a successful CEO is someone who has that ability to manage, like the ability to manage teams, and not just like, your direct, right? But like to be able to hire properly so that you're bringing in people who can manage those beneath them as well. And being able to essentially like operate that entire ecosystem in a way that teams are communicating with one another really well. Expectations are set, goals and timelines and deadlines are like just where things kind of run almost like clockwork. I mean, clockwork is hard to achieve, but where you have the ability to be able to bring in and take out anybody, that you need to, without the entire thing crumbling and falling apart. And that's hard. That's not an easy feat. I think that a lot of people really like, the term CEO gets so overused, and people don't fully understand what it really means to have that position and have that level of responsibility for an entire organization. And I've seen this at, for companies that are, doing 15 million. I've seen it for companies that are doing 75 million. I've seen it for companies doing 125. Like, honestly, it's something that is elusive for many. And it really comes down to your ability to communicate, I think, and to set expectations and just drive other people to action and successful outcomes, and to hold them accountable, and to know enough about your damn business to be able to do all that stuff. That's like the cornerstone of all of it. If you don't know enough about what's going on in your own company, you can't do any of these other things that I just mentioned.
You better be careful going out here raising this money, because this is what people don't be understanding. First time I got exposed to a board replacing their CEO and understanding what that meant, I was like, man, that's savage. You know, I was like, that's savage. You know what I mean? But that's because I didn't understand it. When you get on the investor side of the table, now it's a whole nother scenario of understanding, because it's like, I'm trying to protect my investment.
Right.
And since you don't want to get out of your own way, you about to mess it up for everybody.
Exactly.
You know, and so, you know, it's like that happens a lot. Google is a great example of, you know, eventually, like Sergey and Larry Page, they ended up hiring the CEO. Eric Schmidt was the CEO for a long time at Google. Now they got the other guy, I can't call his name. It's Sundar or something like that.
Absolutely,
But these guys were founders. They were visionaries. And I would imagine them getting good counsel from their investors probably got them to that place of, hey, y'all got the company this for, we may need to, you know, y'all roles may need to switch into other arenas, and let's put a CEO who can take us to that next level, get the market cap, even, you know, make this company be even bigger than what it is, and then everybody benefits, right? So it's like, you know, and I'm gonna get off this subject because I was going somewhere with that, and it just kind of slipped my mind real quick, but Google is a perfect example of that. So I was just, you know.
No, that's good. I think there's another quality too, to a great CEO, and Kai kind of touched on this, but it's the ability to be able to motivate. And going back to, you may be a phenomenal, and being a founder and then making that transition to growing your company and having, we're not even, let's just scratch off CEO, but just you're in the founder. And you start off with 3 people, you guys grow, you're now 5 people, you guys grow, you're now 10 people, you guys grow, you guys are 15 people, right? And now it becomes a situation to where everything is going great, but now the internal dynamics of dealing with the people day in, day out, and motivating the people day in, day out to strive and move forward and do the things, you trying to draw out the excellence in them so that you can feed that back into the company. That is something that CEOs are phenomenal at doing as well. And sometimes introverted product development people or process-driven people, sometimes we don't really want to deal with people like that. It's like, I'm paying you, come in here, do your job, and perform. And the guys at Google, Sergey and them, they seem like they're kind of more so very mechanical type people versus being more, subjective. They're more objective versus being subjective. And I think a CEO is very great at driving people and kind of pulling out the passion in people to ensure that they push the company forward. So a great CEO, you know, obviously he's a great leader, but he also knows how to be charismatic when he needs to and pump everybody up so everybody is on fire to do this work. And obviously when you set that level of management on fire, that fire burns downhill because now they're going in there setting their teams on fire, and then ultimately, you know, you get across the finish line. Obviously, if there's a great strategy in place and all of the tactics and everything are in place as well, but that's something that a great CEO is powerful at, which is really driving, which is really getting everybody behind him, like kind of just what you see like in when armies back in, you know, when the general will stand in front of the troops and get them pumped up to march into war. A great CEO is a phenomenal general, and he can stand in front of his C-suite and get everybody motivated about moving forward. Hell, he may even spark fire, rekindle the fire inside the founder as well to want to drive the company forward. So that's another great point about a CEO.
Yeah, I think there's so to me, like to your point, there are people who drive excellence.
Yes.
Right. And that's how they retain excellence, by the way. Like the last thing that any rock star wants to do or to be is surrounded by mediocre players, or a mediocre system, or just like a really messed up, kind of line of communication, and just like at the end of the day, I think what people don't realize, you know, everybody's always searching for like the best talent, right? Like the best talent for their budget, sort of a deal. And I think that CEOs are really, really good at just helping create these cultures, a culture of excellence, so that when they do bring in top talent, when they do bring in rock stars to, you know, lead the charge on, you know, whether it's various departments or what have you, those people are apt to stay because they're with their people, right? I think that I've seen all too often in e-commerce companies where, you know, people, you know, HR goes through this painstaking, you know, recruitment process to find this incredible, let's say, you know, a retail marketer or whatever. And, you know, they come in and they kind of look around, and at first they're really gung-ho, really excited to get started. And their energy is on like 12, right? And then they start to realize, oh wait, but there's a communication breakdown here. But wait, I just had a conversation with the CMO and they told me something completely different that they told this other person over here. And now we're confused and we don't understand what's going on. And they start wondering like, okay, you know, this starts happening, you know, maybe 5-10 times a day. And these problems start to snowball and snowball. And now that person's like, this is a nightmare. Like, I can't really get anything done here and I can't be great. Right. And that happens a lot. It really does. So it's Absolutely. Like, I think when it comes to the ability to drive successful outcomes, a lot of that comes from building that culture of excellence. A lot of it comes from communication skills. You know, with a CEO, they're able to communicate their vision, but they're also able to listen. Like communication is not just a one-way kind of a thing. It's the ability to seek insights and get data and get information and distill that. And, you know, whether you're evaluating a business story that's been laid out for you, or whether you're filling in the gaps to create a larger business story to make some decisions off of, like, there's a process of speaking, communicating your vision, but also listening to the people around you that you've paid to actually, you know, you know what I'm saying? Like that it's critical. And I've seen over and over and over again where CEOs, they can't communicate. Somebody will tell them something and they cannot actually like relay that to someone else. They'll hire a consultant, for God's sakes, and they can't relay what the consultant has consulted to the people that need to be in charge of execution, for example, or they just don't relay it. They're just like, nah, I'm good on that.
Yeah, and it's just like disregard. They paid you good money to tell them what to do, and they just received it, and then after you went on about your business, they went and did the complete opposite.
The exact opposite.
It's like, man, where they do that at?
It's nuts.
It's uncomfortable being able to execute what they was just told.
But sometimes
probably feel vulnerable about leading.
Yeah, but why would you pay somebody to tell you what to do? Because you know you don't know how to accomplish what you're trying to do. So that's why you hire someone who's done what it is you're trying to do to give you the game on what to do. That sounds like a sound decision right there. But to then get that and then disregard it, and you know, because you disregard it, but like the disregard then lends itself to ridiculous mistakes that determined you should have listened to good counsel when you had it, and you probably knew you had good counsel, yet you still chose to disregard it. And then now you wondering why you're sitting in this pile of mess that you in now. Right. It blows my mind.
It happens all the time.
It happened to me multiple times.
I just like it's probably the most frustrating part for me. It's the most frustrating part about the line of work that I'm in. Yes. I love my job. I love doing what I do, but I abhor having to have conversation, and especially when I have to have multiple conversations about the same thing because they didn't do the thing that I told them to do before months ago. Right. Like, but it becomes really challenging when, and I to some degree, I kind of get it a little bit, because sometimes what happens is a founder or CEO, really CEOs, I think, or well, it's probably everybody, but whoever's at the helm, they have a lot of people in their ear.
Yeah.
And if they do this wrong, they tend to have a lot of people in there. The key is, and I've seen this especially when you have somebody who has hired multiple marketing consultants. So you have like, let's say maybe you've got, e-com division, you've got a retail division, you've got 4 consultants over here on the retail side, you've got 5 consultants over here on the e-commerce side, and they're giving you different insights and information. And then you just hire yet another one, right? Like this happens. And I don't know if it's just an abundance of cash and you just feel like I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is where somebody has I'm talking about like when you have a team, an overall team of like 15, 20, and you've got 8 consultants. Like,
Crazy.
I don't know what kind of psychological shit that is, but I think that there's when you've got all of these people coming at you from all angles with different perspectives and viewpoints, it can be difficult to kind of sift through that. But the key is like a good CEO doesn't put themselves in that kind of position, right? A good CEO has one specialist. If you're going to hire a consultant or you're going to hire, like there's one person that they go to for very specific things, for specific outcomes, right? And then you have another person that is in some other, maybe you've got like a consultant who gives you some game on YouTube ads, right? Yep. And you've got a consultant over here who maybe gives you some game on OTT. Like, yep. That's perfectly fine, but it's very specific to an overall goal, right? It cogs in the machine, as it were, instead of kind of doubling up and having redundant consultants. And founders do this all the time with gurus. Like y'all are buying from 10, 15 different people. They're all giving you different information, right? And that I get how that can get, like I get how that can get confusing and how that could, kind of paralysis by analysis type of thing. You might get overwhelmed. I get that, but don't put yourself in that position. Like it's all about focus. So I think that because ultimately what happens is you take the advice of one, right? Usually they don't all agree across the board, but let's say you've got 4 and 2 have this position and 2 have that position. Okay, so you take the advice of 2 and then you've disregarded the counsel of the other 2, and you may not be in a position to fully understand or ascertain the nuances between both of those strategies. Those other 2 may have given you something completely off base based off of where your company is, based off the assets at your disposal, based off of a whole bunch of different things. So I just feel like I say all this to say that, at the end of the day, I think a real CEO is somebody who hires with intention. They communicate with intention. They listen with intention. They have a plan and a strategy that's mapped out in terms of how they're going to implement this direction that they've decided to go in based off of all of the data that they have at their disposal, based off of the insights that they have from people that they trust who have really strong track records, etc. And there's a level of focus. And they're fully focused on making sure that everybody's on the same page and is essentially playing from the same sheet of music. And I've seen where fake CEOs just fail at this all the time because they're not paying enough attention. Like they're not even paying enough attention to the nuance.
They don't care to, and they know they're not doing it, and they don't care. That's what make them fake.
It's wild.
Because if you just don't know any better, I can handle that. But if you know better and you still doing that, I can't respect it. Yeah. That make you fake to me.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. I think it's like, and I don't. To me, it's perhaps like they're just focused on the wrong stuff, and so they're like, yeah, I know I got to do this, but oh look over here, there's a camera. Like maybe that's what it is.
I think we come back to the fake CEO. Fake CEO, if you listening to this, if you look to your right and to your left and there's nobody for you to be held accountable, there's nobody to hold you accountable, and you're not held accountable for this person, nobody can hold you accountable. I think you're probably not a CEO because it's a core driving component to this seems to be that a CEO is being held accountable, and he is accountable to the people that are around him. You know, so I think that seems to be the key thing here. Whether it's obviously, and realistically, as a CEO, you can be fired as a founder. If you look around and again it's just you and your VA, nobody's gonna fire you, and that's probably why you got your chest pumped up. But at the same time, it's hurting you as well because nobody is there to keep you accountable. Nobody is there to keep you on track. Nobody's there to tell you that, hey, bro, we don't need to take any more photos to go live. We actually need to take some time to sit down and sift through these analytics to see why the company is actually now starting to nosedive in these last 2 weeks. You still high off of the sales from last month, but this month's sales is down by 30, 40, 50%. But you don't even know that because you're going live on IG or gallivanting on different first class plane trips, you know, here and there across the United States. So I think that seems to be a key element of being a CEO, is knowing that you're going to be held accountable to knowing that this is a job. And I think something key that you said, Kai, too, is that they have a North Star. They know that every day they're getting up to work towards hitting this benchmark and hitting this goal so that the whole entire company can celebrate because we've achieved this. And there's no reason to get everybody else motivated and pumped up if we're not going anywhere. Yeah. And that, you know, so again, and as we move throughout the years, we go from quarter to quarter. Everybody wants to know especially if I'm a rock star and I'm 15 people removed from the CEO, is what I'm doing every day contributing to the company hitting the company goals? And if we didn't hit the goals, what can we do better?
And if so, like if it is contributing, in what ways is it contributing, and how can I optimize, or how can I contribute, or how can I infuse ideas that I have, based off of my day-to-day work to make, this department better and more efficient. Like that's when you start getting into spaces where people start taking ownership. And where people start like proactively adding layers of value above and beyond. Like you don't get there without having a tightly run ship that has a culture of accountability all the way up to the top.
Yep. If you're a rock star and you feel like it's a waste of your time, you ain't staying around because you don't have no sense of accomplishment or ownership or anything. I mean, not even in the sense of I own a piece of the company, but just, a real true rock star, they can't help themselves but to be, you know what I'm saying, attached to whatever they doing, where they feel like, because it ain't even about money, although like rock stars tend to get highly compensated, but a true rock star or rather go do something more meaningful for less money than just get paid and feel like what they're doing is worthless.
Absolutely.
So that's just
I think you never want to you never want to have a situation where a rock star is on a team and they feel like they're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Because what happens then is it's basically indicative of a breakdown and it's not always talent. Sometimes, again, it's about that ability to set expectations, drive people to successful outcomes, like communication skills, leadership. All of these things are necessary to have. And all of that kind of, again, it starts from the top down, not the bottom up. So when a CEO is lacking in that and is lacking in creating culture of that within their kind of inner circle or C-suite, if you will, that doesn't trickle down. And when it doesn't trickle down, then you wind up with, high turnover, and you wind up with all sorts of other issues. You can, some of these larger companies, they're spending a lot of money training one new hire. Like one new hire can cost as much as $75,000 to train up.
Yeah. And
so like it behooves people, especially as they scale and grow their businesses, right? Like as you scale and grow, that training, that number gets probably larger and larger, right? But even as a small brand, like good CEOs, they're sending their people to training. They're sending them people in marketing trainings, and they're bringing consultants in to train up teams, and they're doing all of these things, and that requires investments, right? 5-figure, sometimes 6-figure investments. So I think that it really just comes down to making sure that you're creating that culture of excellence, and it starts with you. You lead by example, and if you don't have it, then you gotta step down and bring somebody in who does. And sometimes at a founder level, that's really just about, bringing in a partner, or maybe it's about, bringing on a, director of whatever kind of, whatever department needs the most help. Maybe it's director of marketing, maybe it's director of operations, what have you.
Or recognizing this rock star that you got on your squad.
That part.
There you go.
You need to put them in a new role or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Ray Dalio, for those of you that don't know Ray Dalio, he founded Bridgewater Associates, which is essentially a hedge fund. So he talked about in his book, Principles, how they would invest, going back to what you just said, Kai, they would invest anywhere between 6 figures and up, sometimes even $1 million into new hires, into training them.
Yeah. When you get into listen, bro, when you get into like iBanking, hedge funds, like even like high consulting, like the McKinseys and them, like they're spending beaucoup dollars.
And it kind of goes
on
back,
one hire.
And it kind of goes back to the same, and it kind of goes back to from an e-commerce standpoint, why when you get one customer, you want to keep that customer. You're investing into email marketing. You're investing into the text message marketing. You invested into sending them gift cards. You invested into sending handwritten letters and all this type of stuff like that, because you want to keep that person. And just like, and when it comes down to a BlackRock or Bridgewater or whoever it is, they know that they've acquired good talent. They've actually hired you, and now they want to keep you. Because who knows, someday you may be the CEO of this of the company. And I think another thing we have to look at too is like the managers of these departments, whether it's the CMO or what have you, they are little CEOs. So they need to be great leaders. They need to be people that can motivate people. They need to be able to inspire people. And again, they need to be able to recognize rock stars so that they can lift those people up and allow those people to grow. So
that's real. I mean, you just said too, like, just when you go back to e-commerce and you talk about, getting a customer and keeping them and email and handwritten and all of this kind of stuff, right? It's like if your product trash though, like it's like you don't do those things to overcome a bad product. A bad experience. You know what I mean? You trying to like overcompensate from some other arena. Good CEOs, they tend to care about experience. They tend to care about, product quality and, things of that nature, which is also something I think we should, touch on. Just kind of like, I think the conversation was like why your product is not good enough, and nobody really wants it. That's that like, if you are a CEO and you don't know that your product ain't good, work on that, right? Because that ain't what we saying. Because it's like sometimes you don't know these things, but when you know it ain't, and you still running around beating your chest, you on some fake. What?
Right. No, that's very true. I think that my thing is like everybody should know. You should know if your product is good. That's true. Period. Because if you're not getting information and insights and listening to your customers, like that's like, frankly, that's like founder 101. Right.
And now I see how we got here with good isn't good enough nowadays. You can have I talk to a lot of people with a good product, but right now good products aren't standing out in the marketplace. You need a product that's better than good.
Yeah, I mean, you need something that stands out. And the only way that you can really make that happen, I think, is through making sure that you're listening to your audience.
Hello.
If it's SaaS, you're listening to your users, you're having
Absolutely,
conversations
yeah.
with your users, right? Like, I think that there's just it's really, really critical to always be listening. It's not like, okay, well, we listened when we first started and then we built this thing and now we've sold this thing, we've done 10 million and now we don't have to listen anymore. We're just gonna like, no, because now since you made that, since you built a company that scaled to 10 million, a whole bunch of other people have popped up watching what you're doing, lifting your stuff, copying your products. You know, like, I mean, it's rampant. So
Right.
you don't get to just no longer kind of listen. And also people evolve and change and have different needs. Your audiences will grow up and they'll have
Right.
somewhat different tastes, somewhat different desires within the same nature of the product, right?
Right.
So like you always have to be listening and you always have to be paying attention. You always have to have your ear to the ground, so to speak. And I think the best CEOs, people who are actual real CEOs, understand how absolutely critical that is, and they have a very strong direct line into like their customer service departments or the heads of customer service to always be getting that information and insight. They have a strong line into community management on social media, so that they always are listening. They even are using like platforms and software that actually like will quote unquote listen to what's happening on social media sphere, right? With respect to what people are saying about their products, and how people are engaging with their products. It's so critical. Again, it goes back to listening, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, can't nothing get better than somebody using your product and being ecstatic. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's the ultimate. Ty, you was about to say something.
I was about to say something, kind of hammering home this whole thing about a CEO or even a founder being held accountable. I said if you look to your right and it's just you and your VA, and there's nobody there to hold you accountable, then you're not a CEO. But even if you do look to your left and your right and it's just you and your VA, your customers are the people that's holding you accountable. Your customers are your stakeholders. Your customers are your board of directors. Your customers are everything, because they can decide tomorrow that you're not providing them what they need and stop buying your product.
Listen, let me tell you something. I'm gonna give you a story. Okay, here to joke now, as they say in the islands. Here to joke now. So here's the thing. There's a company. I will not name the name of the company, but they know who they are. They had a great Black Friday. Let's say I'm gonna pick just a random year. Let's say 2019. They had an amazing Black Friday, and it was like I think they did 1.2 million in the span of 3-4 days, which is pretty great. And they were just like taking orders. They're just taking orders in, paid no real attention to the operation side of their business, fulfillment side of their business. Fulfillment, needless to say, could not withstand that level of volume. And they wound up not delivering product to some of those customers for 5 months.
Man,
imagine it's November. You see what I'm saying? Like, and then all of a sudden spring, you just get a random packet. Like, it was a mess. And they had a very, very loyal customer base. But people were pissed. People were very irritated and very angry. It wasn't a high-tech product. It wasn't super complex to build. It wasn't any of that. There was no excuse or reason for like a 4 or 5 month delay in orders. So let's fast forward then to the following year around Black Friday. Companies expecting their goal, we did 1 million last year. It's gonna be super dope this year. Let's do 2.5, let's say. They did 375,000. Because their most loyal customers were like, no, I'm not buying that. Like, I'm not, why would I do that? I'm not buying that. And their conversion rates tanked all throughout that year, right? Their conversion rates tanked on their store. It was all sorts of problems. That happens. Like it's so critical and so important that you value that customer relationship. Because if you don't, then you don't care about whether or not they get their orders. And if you don't care about whether or not they get their orders, then your fulfillment is completely lacking. You're just focused on the money. You're just focused on, oh, okay, well, let me, the screenshots that they can post up.
Screenshots,
you see what I'm saying? Like that's what they're focused on. And it will bite you in the butt for months and years. And to this day, they still struggle with that.
Yeah.
Your customers have a vote. Your customers have a say all day, every day. And the way they vote and the way they let you know whether you're doing good or not doing good is with that US dollar or whatever currency in their wallet. That's how they go. That's how either they're gonna open their wallet to you or they're gonna close their wallet to you.
That's what I vote with. I tell them, I say it all the time. I vote with my wallet, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's just
all day, every day,
all the time. Yep. Well, my wife vote. My wife makes most of the votes, though.
Right. She exactly, because if she tell you to close, you definitely gonna close. You definitely gonna shut it down.
I know how to make it, but boy, do she know how to get rid of it.
I think there's something key too about listening, and we talk about big companies and how critical it is to small companies. You got major companies out there that doesn't have an ear to the customer service department and how that rolls back up and how it should have, and how that how the feedback from the customers should affect product development or maybe your packaging or whatever it is going on in your product, maybe just the whole entire experience. But I've seen companies consult large brands and they were not listening to what the feedback was that was coming from customer service. When you're running an e-commerce brand, especially if you're running Facebook ads, the comments can do a lot for you. You may look at these comments or against you. Exactly. They can definitely work against you. But I'm actually talking about negative comments. Don't just look at the negative comments and say they're being some haters. Try to dive in and figure out why they don't like the product. Like, oh, this product is trash. I mean, you can hide the comments so that way it's not killing conversions, but go back and forth with them, get them on the phone or whatever. Those are the people that you want to get buddied up with, because you already know that they don't give a shit. So they already was in the comments saying, this product is trash, but now you want to know why it's trash and what are they comparing it to know that your product is trash. That's where you're going to figure out, one, okay, who are some of the competitors that you should be watching out for, and two, how you can improve your product and stay around. Kai mentioned something earlier about just because you're up and you're at 5 or 10 million, you can just keep doing what it is that you've been doing. And as you said, that's not true. It's not true at all, because look at Facebook. Facebook is looking over at TikTok trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Google is looking at Chat GPT and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So somebody is always so smart brands and smart companies are always looking over their shoulder to see what is coming up on the horizon. And if their pockets are deep, then maybe they can buy out their competition. And if their pockets aren't deep, then they're just gonna have to try to stay ahead. They're gonna try to innovate and stay ahead of their competition. I said something great too about you. People have noticed that you're out in front. They know you. They know you by name. You don't know who the hell they are, but they're looking at you. Guess?
Oh, you're breaking up, bro.
I don't even hear Ty right now.
Yeah, he got some technical difficulties. But yeah, I mean,
their products stink. We need to make sure our products. Advantage of.
Yo, the whole thing gone. We dropped the whole thing.
We're back.
We're back. We're back. Broke the internet.
We'll have to cut that.
Yeah.
Is it still feeding into YouTube?
We're still live.
Okay.
We're still live. So right, so I was just saying that. What did you guys hear me last?
You were talking about Facebook.
Yeah. So I was saying Facebook is looking over their shoulder at TikTok. And Google is looking over their shoulder at Chat GPT. And I was just basically saying that brands, you need to make sure that you're looking over your shoulders too, because as Kai had mentioned earlier, if you're already out there and you're one of the front leaders, smaller brands who you don't know are looking at your product. They are looking at your landing pages. They are reading your comments and seeing that, oh, your product stink. We need to make sure our product smells good. Oh, they packaging is bad. We need to make sure our package is phenomenal. Because they only need to tweak one or two things, and then they can catch up with you. Now they can force. I was just gonna say, and now they can force your customers to compare your product against theirs. And I was like, these are the things you've been complaining about. You're gonna get the same benefits up over here without any of the trash. Yep. So either you're gonna innovate, or you're gonna be forced to innovate by your competitors,
or you're gonna drop out of the race.
Yep.
Ooh,
you're gonna crash and burn. But that's what the fake CEOs do. Is like they just be hating in the comments. Oh, really? Oh, okay. And that keep happening. Yeah, I can't stop it. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, you can't stop because you ain't trying to do nothing about it.
That's exactly. I think it just comes down to how much do you give a shit?
Bingo.
Like that's really what
makes
it comes
you fake
down
to me. Like but you don't care.
You don't care enough to make a move.
You don't care enough. So it's like, nah, I can't respect that.
That's the problem.
I think there's some clear examples too. I know that we wanted to touch on one example in particular, how, again, not listening to great counsel and just kind of wanting to do your own thing, forcing products on your customers and forcing products on the market. I know. Have y'all seen CEOs just try to force a product out there and then trying to be like, if the product ain't moving, it must be the marketing.
Brother, like it comes down to not listening, right? Yep. One, you're not listening to your customers, or you think you know what your customers actually want, but you didn't actually ask them. And maybe you asked a couple people and they were your friends, so they said, yeah, that'd be dope. And that was the conversation. And then you went ahead and you spent tons of money on product development and bought 100,000 units or 5 million units of something, and then decided you were gonna launch a product, right? This happens a lot where the product launch just completely flops because you weren't paying attention. And it also, like, I've also seen where brands are kind of, they're expanding the product line. They've got some products that were winning that are successful. Now they're adding to that to, essentially extend their back end, which we'll probably talk about we'll definitely talk about on another podcast episode.
Absolutely.
But they go through this process. They have, talk to the marketing team, consultants, what have you. And there are people who are telling them like, is this really going to work? Like, are these products really going to go? Like, this is based off of data that you have that this is going to, but it's at that point, it's already too late because they have the inventory, right? The things developed, spent years on the development and the planning. And then of course, naturally the launch fails because customers are like, well, why would I buy this when I have this other thing right here in my, you know what I mean? Like, or there's just like a mismatch in terms of what the customer actually wants and desires. And you didn't listen to the customers. You didn't listen to the audience. You didn't listen to the consultants that you hired. You didn't listen to the marketing director or the CMO or whatever, what have you. And then so you're just in this really unfortunate situation. I've seen it happen over and over.
Now you go and spend that money and you're going to bring somebody else in because they're going to give you some secret magic trick that's going to help you sell this inventory. And now you're throwing good money out the bad because you think, oh, it's probably just a marketing problem.
Yeah.
My customers don't know what they don't know what they want. I know better. My CMO don't know. I know. These people that I paid money to tell me what to do that I didn't listen to, they ain't known that. So let me go hire somebody who's gonna tell me what I want to hear. And then you just go get the same result.
Exactly. The same result. And then you're throwing ad spend, you're throwing influencer marketing, like you're throwing all these dollars into all of these things, and it's not working. You're like, oh, marketing. It's not the marketing, bro. Sometimes
and now you're in a deeper hole than you was before.
Right.
Now what? Looking crazy.
But it happens a lot. It really does. It happens quite a bit. And it's it comes back to your ability to listen.
Yes.
Like there's, you see the theme, the overall theme. I didn't even think that that was going to be the theme for this whole, podcast, but like that's what it is. It really comes down to that. It comes down to the ability to, and the willingness to listen,
and the willingness to be held accountable.
Yeah, the willingness to set aside your ego, and to be open, and to actually do what the smart people that you hired tell you to do.
Yeah.
Right. Your first smart action was to go reach out and find smart people.
Yes.
Now just educate on what those smart people told you to do. Don't feel like you winning less because you went and hired smart counsel and listened to them and executed and won. That's a win for you.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people out there that didn't do that.
Absolutely. And I think it comes down to this belief, this inherent belief that they know better. And this inherent belief that they know all of the things.
They want to be responsible. They want to have the accolade when it works. They want to have the credit.
Right.
They want the credit.
That's ego. That's super ego.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Because for me, that's why I say, take myself out the art. Like, bro, that's why y'all hear me talk about, like, I don't want to build a large organization. That ain't my jam. Like, do I want to own a large organization? Sure. But I don't want to be the one running it because I don't got patience like that. You know what I'm saying? I can't come and tell somebody what we supposed to be doing and then they don't do it. And now I got to try to motivate you and this, that, and the third. I don't got that kind of patience.
Right.
Just don't. And I know that I lack that, right? So the way I do something about it is, okay, I probably don't need to be trying to be a CEO of a large organization, right?
Right.
But yeah, man, it's I don't know, bro. It's kind of wild, man. I don't really know what to say at this point. Yeah. And I said it all, I think.
I think we've said it all, bro. Like, I think that it's just at the end of the day, everybody's on this journey.
Yes.
Every entrepreneur is on this journey. And it's not necessarily an easy one, right? I think a lot of entrepreneurs make it way harder than it really needs to be. But all in all, there's going to be ebbs and flows. You're going to fail, you're going to stumble, you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to evolve. That's a part of the whole nine. I think the people who make the best CEOs are people who are willing to bend and flex and listen. And when I say flex, I mean like in terms of like being flexible, not like being CEOs who's flossy, right? That's different. But I think that there's definitely you have to have that ability to constantly be on the pursuit of growth and constantly be on the pursuit of evolution, because all of those traits, whatever the traits that you have, will trickle down into your organization.
Absolutely.
Into the
negative
culture,
or positive,
seep into the culture without
negative
fail.
And positive.
Absolutely, 110%. So these folks, if you guys are having these dreams of being at the helm of a large organization or even like a small organization that's doing hella bank, right? But if you have these dreams of really being a real CEO, like you have to be on the constant pursuit of growth. And I always say entrepreneurship really is a personal growth journey at the end of the day. Like that's the, like you won't be able to find a way to grow more as a person, as a human being outside the world of entrepreneurship. I sincerely believe that. That's just by virtue of the experiences that you have. And when it comes down to it, we just want more people, I think, to be more aware, and to fully understand that, like, if you want the title of CEO, you really need to have to care a lot more than you think you do.
Absolutely.
Yep. 100%.
Closing words, Tommy?
I think, again, we talked about, y'all know my big word. That was, accountability, right? It's always To me, that's what it boiled down to for the most part. I mean, I do agree, your ability to listen as well, but accountability is just huge for me. And just like I said, fake to me is, appearing, to be real when you're not. And that's why I say when you have these things where, because we're all figuring this out. We're all failing. I'm falling forward a lot. I failed a lot in my career. That was a time in my life where I could go back. If I would have been more adamant about having mentors, I probably would have got further along way sooner, because I thought I knew. And I was going along with that because I thought I knew, And then once I learned better and once I started seeing, it's like, what am I doing? Like, why would I do anything that I don't know how to do when I got access to somebody that I already know how to do it? Like, that's ridiculous. But I used to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
And then once I understood that I was doing that to myself, I stopped doing that. But geez, it took me years to, figure that out. So to me, like I say, when it's the fake thing, it be these folks that they get them realizations, but they continue to operate in that space. So you're operating and you presenting yourself as real when in reality, you know what you're supposed to be doing, but you just don't give a shit, and that just make you fake to me.
Yeah, it's a lack of priority.
A lack of priority, a lack of accountability. Yeah. It's a lack of a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really, for me, like I said, accountability is just a big word. That's something I learned when I was young, super young, 8, 9 years old. I understood what the word accountability meant. And I've been on a journey ever since, because I always, my grandmother used to, tell me these things. And, one of the things she always would say to me is like, you should never want someone to expect more of you than you do of yourself. And that's just kind of how I operate off of. And to me, accountability, that's somebody who really want and welcome accountability. Like, it's not about because I want somebody to tell me what to do. It's about me wanting to have a high value for myself greater than anyone else. And when I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be, I should have people around me that can hold me accountable, or I need to be operating understanding that I need to be accountable. Otherwise, you just out here willy-nilly and wilding,
Right.
And that's just, that's it. That's me.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Ty, any last words?
My last words would be, as a CEO or as a founder, you should continue to be curious, and my new word is fascinated. Yeah. So you should continue to be curious about what your customers think about your product, and you should continue to be fascinated about what these people think about your product. You should continue to be curious about other products that are coming up on the market. And you should be curious about what your customers think about those new products that's coming out on the market. You should continue to be fascinated by the products that are being developed and the differences between those products and your own products. And you should look to have fascinating people around you, people that make you go, wow, I never thought about that, or wow, I never looked at it from that perspective, because that's going to make you grow. And no matter how egotistical you are, you should also look at your customers as people that are helping you, even if you are a narcissist. Even if you're a straight narcissist. Look, here's a narcissist view of your customers. Look at your customers as a gang of people that are working every day to help you. And the way that they're helping you is for you to listen and hear what it is that they're saying, so that you can make those tweaks to your products and make your products fascinating to people. It's like, how does he keep making, or how does she keep making these products so phenomenal? And it's because you're listening to everybody around you, and you're listening to all these different perspectives. One last note too I want to talk about is product. I see a lot of new founders showing up with products that were winning, or they saw somebody else doing it, and because they're successful, they think that they can show up with the same thing and be successful. And one thing that we talk about is origin story. You really need to know how these people got into the game and when they got into the game and what their business strategy is and all of those different and the business model, what that is as well, because they may be doing something or they may be playing with numbers that you don't have at your disposal. And you need to know that ahead of time before you go and spend and waste a lot of money or start hiring consultants only to be told that this isn't going to work. And then your response is, but it's working for the person next door. You're not the person next door. However, if you was fascinated by what they was doing and you were being super curious about what it is that they were doing and super curious about their journey, then you would fully understand that they were in a time, they were in a place, and they're dealing with products and economics that are totally different from yours. And you need to go in a different direction. That's what I have.
No, that's fire, especially around just curiosity and fascination. I'm going to add one more thing to that. You should be curious and you should be fascinated by instilling processes and systems. And when I say systems, I also mean people, right, inside of your business. And making sure that everyone is communicating with one another, that everyone is fascinated about what their role is within the company and the contributions that they make to that company, and making sure that you are being held accountable by those people to deliver what you are supposed to be delivering as a CEO or as somebody who's a captain of this ship. Because all of these people rely on you ultimately in order to do their jobs as well. So
absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Closing it out. This is another episode. Next Level Ambitions.
Bye, guys.
All right. Holla.